I'm so excited to share that through Executive Endurance Coaching, I've officially joined Never Second's Coach and Nutritionist program. Never Second is a science-driven performance nutrition brand built specifically for endurance athletes. I've personally been using their fueling system for years in my own training, and I love how simple, precise their approach to carbohydrate fueling is for runners, cyclists, triathletes, you name it. And today, if you want to try Never Second for yourself, our listeners can get 15% off by using the code GRIT15 at checkout. GRIT 15 at checkout. Just head to never2.com and start fueling your training with intention. This episode is brought to you by Koya Performance for Life. Koya combines wearable technology with behavioral science to help you unlock more energy and perform at the highest level. Their coaches have worked with Olympians, Super Bowl MVPs, World Series champions, and other elite performers. Their 12-week program focuses on sleep, exercise, nutrition, mindset, and recovery, blending biometric data from wearables like Oura, Whoop, or Garmin with one-on-one coaching from a team that includes a dietitian, sleep coach, movement specialist, and mental performance coach. Grit Files listeners today receive 33% off the program using the code AGRANDOFF. Visit koya.life to learn more. Welcome to the Grit Files. I'm your host, Laura Reynolds, and today we have one of my fellow co-authors from When People Rise, Brooke Toomey. Brooke is a mom, an entrepreneur, a world traveler, and now a #1 Amazon best-selling author. Brooke Toomey, welcome to the Grit Files.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. We have a lot to talk about today. So for some context about how Brooke came to be here, how we knew each other, Brooke and I met because we were partnered together while writing When People Rise. And I don't think it was any coincidence that we were paired together because quickly after being paired and talking for the first time, there was so much overlap both in our personal lives and our professional lives. We were both co-authors. We both were divorced and needed to rebuild ourselves. And we worked in really similar lines of work, come to find out. So it's really funny that our worlds collided the way that they did. But that's how we came to know each other. Brooke, who were you before all of this madness, before the book and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you asked me who I was, I would have identified myself as a mom and a wife.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it would have gone further than that.
Yeah, I think that's so true of so many moms and wives.
Yes. So, I stayed at home and I didn't pursue a career. And I gave everything to my kids, to my husband. And while being a mom was and still is one of the most important things in my life and something that I get the most meaning out of and something that grows me, it wasn't fully me. There was still this whole other side of me that I hadn't explored. And I think that 10 years in, I'm staying at home, no career.
Yeah.
I didn't get married really young, but I also never really had a career.
Yeah.
And my degree wasn't something that I could really fall back on. So, the thought of being in a position where my ex-husband and I were not doing well. And, just as you introduced me as a world traveler, that has always been a passion of mine before my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that I spoke to my husband about before we got married and said, this is something that fills my soul, something that I need in my life to be happy. Are you on board? Because I knew our plan was for me to stay at home. And he said, yes, of course.
Yeah.
So I went into it thinking that the part of me that really helped me to sing.
Right. It kept you alive. Like that was the thing that made you feel closest to you.
Right. And then as soon as I was in a place of dependency, that changed.
Yeah.
And so, for 10 years, we talked about this need that I had. Yeah. And, it wasn't until I got to a place where I realized that that was never going to happen in my current situation. Didn't matter how well I communicated it. It didn't matter. There was really nothing that was going to change.
Right. You're standing by the door with your suitcase and you're never going to go anywhere.
Right. So, so I was ready to live my life in the way that I wanted to live it while I was a mom.
Yeah. And your chapter talks a lot about that. So for anyone who hasn't read Brooke's chapter yet, first of all, it's amazing. But it talks about how she goes from 0 to 6 figures, and literally she went from 0 to 6 figures. But before that happened, Brooke wasn't working. She was really dependent upon her husband. And there was this kind of moment between deciding to stay or leave, and that's actually where your chapter falls in the book, is the section of when we're trying to decide, do I stay, do I leave? And you and I talked a lot about this just on a personal level too, is that women in particular, especially moms, we have a habit of staying somewhere too long, whether it's a job or a marriage or anything. We kind of talk ourselves into the fact that it is our responsibility to stay and stay and stay, even if we are sacrificing massive parts of ourselves. But in the part of your chapter, in the beginning, actually, the first line of your chapter, you wrote, I didn't know my marriage was ending that night, but my body did. I got chills reading that line because I so vividly remember that exact same feeling. And I know that there's so many people out there right now that are getting chills because they are experiencing that feeling. But if they haven't been able to put into words, can you explain how you knew that it was time to leave? And what did you physically feel in your body when you knew, I've now overstayed?
Yes.
It's time to leave.
So the interesting thing about your question is that, and I say this to women who are in the process of discovery about possibly leaving a marriage, and this isn't necessarily clients but friends.
Yeah.
And, people will ask, when do you know? And I said, you just know.
You do.
And don't do it until you know. And there was, so for me, there was almost this piece when I had what I knew was going to be my last argument about the same thing. It was kind of this, he's not trying to be mean to me. He's not,
right.
It's just
who
never
he
going
is,
to
and
change.
It's not who I am, and it's time.
Right. And so, I mean, I had feelings after
Right.
that feeling, but there was this feeling of just knowing and then the breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just like, okay, this is what I have to do. No matter how scared I am, no matter how little confidence I have that I'm going to be able to support my own dreams, I have to do this.
Yeah. I want to speak a little bit and actually name the feelings for people that are in it, because I feel like it's important for people to know what it is that's keeping them staying. So what were your biggest fears when you were kind of coming to this decision of oh my God, I know I need to leave, but what does that mean? So you've made the decision, I'm leaving, but you also are aware we have two children and I have no job. I have no plan. So what were the fears after the decision?
Oh my gosh. I mean, what wasn't I afraid of at the time, I was terrified of hurting my kids.
Yeah.
I think that was probably first and foremost. I think there was the fear of, how am I going to do this alone? How am I going to support myself? I knew what I wanted in life. And success is different for different people. So traveling may not be a fear of one woman, why she may or may not leave. But for me, it was, like I said, kind of the soul thing. And I wasn't sure that I'd be able to provide that for myself.
Right.
I knew I was never
going to
provide
it. To do it, sort of.
And I knew it wasn't going to happen where I was, but I knew I had a shot of it, you know. So there was the fear of that. I think there was a fear of, how do I get there, and what do I do first? And I went through a process, and I am a firm believer in therapy. I absolutely love it.
Yes.
And I got together with a therapist, and I said to her, I had a thought today that I don't want to have. I think I'm going to have to leave my marriage.
Yeah.
And she said to me, let's set up your life so that if you decide to leave, you will be okay.
Yeah.
And so this actually
we love this therapist because she's really a
best.
coach, because a lot of times they want to be like, let's unpack why you feel that way. Let's go backwards. But we love that the therapist was really more coaching and was like,
So
all right,
much.
let's plan for where we are in the future if that happens.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah. So this was actually, when I met with her, was a little bit predating the actual this is it.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that she had me do was, what do you want to do when you grow up? And she guided me through this process, which is something that I now do with women, is guiding them through, what do I want to do when I grow up?
Yeah.
And just several of the different things that I needed to know, that when it was time to leave, which I was pretty sure it was going to be eventually, that I wouldn't be as afraid.
Yeah.
But I still didn't know where it was going. But I would say, to answer your question, fear of what this was going to do to my children, fear of whether or not I could make it.
Yeah.
And I think just that whole time of being a stay-at-home mom and focusing my whole life around everybody else, I didn't have the confidence.
Yeah.
I didn't have the confidence to believe in myself.
Yeah, which is funny because it comes full circle, and now that's exactly what you help people to develop. And I think that's kind of how I landed in coaching too, is like you become the thing that you wish you would have had during that time.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's, you know, a misconception too for people, is that if they're in this moment, they keep waiting for when they don't feel scared. And I am here to tell you, and I'm sure you're here to confirm, there's never a moment in this thing where you're not scared. That's not going to happen. This is a scary move.
Right.
It's a terrifying move because none of us have a crystal ball to be able to say, like, yep, your kids end up in therapy for the rest of their life over this decision. Like, we can't. But the flip side, folks, is that they could also end up in therapy because you stayed. And, like, they see what a relationship should not be. So we always want to think about, oh, I'm going to ruin them because I leave. Well, what if you ruin them because you stay? So, like, that can happen too. But I think it's really important for people to know that, like, yes, you can get closer to being less scared. There's never going to be a moment where you're not scared.
Yes.
Even when you're on the other side of it, we're humans. Like, life happens, and there's just scary things, but that also is where so much growth happens.
100%.
You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Even when you're traveling, it's scary when you're somewhere new, or you're having to navigate where you're, you know, literally hiking. It's scary, but then when you figure it out and you get to the top of the mountain and you see the view, you're like, you know, so much growth from that.
Yeah, and I would even say with therapy for my kids, 100% yes. I'm like, they're going to be dealing with this for a long time. But that has been such a huge growth point for my children.
Yeah.
You know, and I think one of the things that I continually have to remind myself as a mom, that protecting them from pain is not what makes them grow.
No.
And that doesn't mean that
louder
you're
for the people in the back.
It doesn't mean you're reckless, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're thoughtful about how you go through this process and help them, but saving them from pain isn't helping them to grow.
No, it's not realistic, because inevitably, whether it's in relationships or in jobs or whatever, there's going to be an element of pain that every human experiences. So the quicker you can learn that and figure out how to navigate it, the better you are in your life. And, you know, right before Brooke hopped on and we started recording, we actually talked about a live example of how your daughter, who's now 17, came to you. And the divorce happened when she was 8.
Yes.
And she didn't have an easy time accepting this.
No.
But at 17, she's coming to you and saying, I get it. It makes sense now. So for those of you that are going through this with young kids, know that it might take a long time, but it doesn't mean that they never come back around to understand the decision. They just need more perspective. They need more life experience. And that happened with you firsthand.
Yes. And it happened with my other daughter too. I have two, and both of them came to that. Some of the best advice, and this is kind of going more towards the divorce thing, but some of the best advice that I got was, your kids one day will understand, do not speak badly about him.
Yes.
That was the advice that I got. And was I perfect? No.
Yeah.
But everything came to fruition that I was told would, which is that they do get it and they appreciate it.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing that she was mentioning, is I feel like I have this safe, comfortable, warm home where, there's mental health is
Right.
great, and just
Yeah.
a place that she enjoys being.
Yeah, and I think in the moment, in the heat of this decision and going in a different direction, it's really hard to remember that at one point you were in love with this person enough to marry them.
Yep.
So you almost have to find a way to keep that peace sacred because your kids are still in love with him, right? And you don't want to dictate the experience that they have with that person based on the experience that you have. And I think that's another thing that's really important for people to keep in mind is that your kids are watching. Every response that you have, every facial expression that you have, every word that you use to describe this person, they are absorbing that. And you're dictating what their experience is, and that's not fair because they didn't contribute to where you are now.
Yes.
So I love that advice is like, be careful what you say because they're listening. And
I would just add, go easy on yourself.
yes,
We're not
yes.
perfect,
Yeah.
and you're going to say the wrong thing, and you're going to give the wrong look at the wrong time,
Yes.
And so I think it's learning, and this is also a therapy thing, learning how to repair and learning how to apologize to your children.
Yeah.
And, live a life that you would want for them, which is one of, kindness and
Yeah.
repairing when you make mistakes and being okay with making mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. We could talk about this topic all day. But what do you wish that you would have known at that time that you know now in making that decision for anybody who is stuck?
That I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it. And anybody can do it. There is nothing uniquely special about me.
Yeah.
I was willing to do what I needed to do. Maybe if I would say anything, it's willingness. If you are ready to achieve your goals, not let anything stand in the way, you can do it.
Yeah.
There is nothing standing in the way but what's up here. I think the mental part of can we do this is what stands in the way sometimes. And I'll also say that starting the journey, my first job, which was at 38 years old,
Yeah.
minimum wage, I was sitting next to a 20-year-old girl who hadn't graduated high school or college yet. It was a temp job
Front
for
desk
yeah,
job.
in the summertime, and that's as far. But that one job, and watching how my supervisor responded to my work ethic, my
Yeah.
attitude, that was like a really important building block for my confidence.
Yeah.
And to know that I would be valued as I moved up in my
Yeah.
career.
Yeah. And we're definitely getting into all of your career trajectory in a second. But one thing that it reminded me of is like everybody loves the phrase fake it till you make it. And that's like a huge piece of advice from leaders all the time. I hate it because I feel like when you say you're faking it, it almost means that you're an imposter and that's not, you're not somebody who could do that. I say talk about it. Like talk as if you're doing it. Talk as if you're already there.
Absolutely.
You're not faking anything.
Yeah.
You are becoming the person that you want to be. And I think that's exactly what you did. And by the way, for anybody who missed it, Brooke's first job, 38 years old. Okay. This is what a lot of people would deem midlife. You have 2 kids, you're going through a divorce, and you're literally standing next to this teeny bopper 26-year-old who has like no clue what's coming. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of the odds and ends careers that you had leading up to what would be the ultimate thing. But like talk about that experience because it was
Yeah.
probably hard to start
Yes.
in middle age.
Yes. So I don't think I share how I got my very first job in the book. I talk
Yeah.
a little bit after that. So the very first job I got, so I got divorced. I knew where
Yeah.
I wanted to go because I went through the what do I want to do when I grow up
Right.
process. And so I knew that quote unquote HR director was where I wanted to be. And
Right,
there were
big
several
picture.
reasons for that. Some of it had to do with I didn't have the time or money to go back to school.
Right.
It was something that I knew you could do on experience only and not necessarily a degree.
Yeah.
So there were reasons why that was a good fit for me. But I had to do odd jobs that weren't anything that had to do with HR, just to make money
Right.
while I was
Just to stay
pursuing
afloat.
that. I was catering a party.
Yes.
And I ran into a woman who worked at the front desk of my high school. And so
Yeah.
here I am, 38. I'm catering her party.
Yeah.
And she asked what I'm up to. And one of the things that I focused on was,
Serving
okay.
her like some crab balls on a plate. And you're like, hi. It's so weird, but
Yeah. Well, and just to your point, you said, talk about yourself as though you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I just told her and other people I had the opportunity, I'm looking to get into HR. And she said, really? I work in HR at the Board of Education.
Yeah.
I think we might have a temp position becoming available. It's just summer. I don't know if you're interested. I'm like, I'm interested.
Yeah. Yep.
Let me.
When do I start?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yep.
So that was my first one. So literally networking
Yeah.
while I was, at a party,
Yeah.
working the party as a caterer. And from there, I started to find jobs to interview for. Going back, the informational interview was my first person with an HR director title that I ever spoke to.
Right.
And this was also part of the what do I want to do when I grow up process was the informational interview. And this wasn't a reach out to somebody, cold call them and ask them for a job.
Right.
It was not the goal. The goal was, hey, you're trying to get to an HR director position. Do you know somebody who's an HR director? No. All right, well, get on LinkedIn and start, searching people who have that title in the area. And I literally sent a message to a woman that did not know who I was. I did not know her. And all I did was ask her questions.
Yes.
And I approached it from do I really know what being an HR director really entails? Like, what does it mean? What are the pluses? What are the minuses? What do you love? What is your day-to-day? Just all of the questions to understand more about the profession. And that person offered me 3 jobs over the course of the next 3 years, and never because I asked.
And never a job posting.
Never.
Wanna make
Well,
that
so yes and
probably
no.
formally. They probably formally had to post it.
Yes. Well, and that was one of the amazing things about it too, though, is, and I tell my clients, you do use LinkedIn and Indeed to find open positions.
Yeah.
So I did that. She offered me 2 positions I think they were like a year or 2 apart.
Yeah.
Because I always just kept in touch. I would just say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Here's what I'm up to. But never asking anything. But I was top of mind for her.
Yeah.
And so she reached out about 2 jobs. In the meantime, I was gaining more experience. I had interviewed for a role that I sat down with this guy who basically said, you don't have enough experience. And I knew it going in.
Right.
But I said to him, can I just keep in touch? I totally understand. And he said, yeah. So every once in a while, I would send him a message and just say, here's what I'm up to now. I hope you're doing well. Let me know if you're in the Annapolis area. He was a regional HR guy, so he was kind of coming in and out of the Annapolis area. And so kept my foot in the door there, and then was trying to find a job to give me a step up, and increase my experience. And I looked on Indeed, and I saw that same position open up that I had applied for and been denied a year prior.
Yeah.
And I just reached out to him and said, hey, Dan, I saw this position is open again. Here's some of the experience I have. Would you be willing to interview me again? And I got that job. And when I was ready to leave that job and I needed to move on, I used Indeed to search jobs that were open.
Yeah.
And there was an opening at the job or at the company with the woman I did the informational interview with. So that one, I reached out to her and saw it on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But this is after years of maintaining communication with her, just a little bit here and there, and got that job. So it was just, and it goes from there. There are several other.
Well, and for those of you that are frantically applying to these job postings, you are losing out. If you're applying to job postings without having created a relationship with the person that you're applying to, you're missing out to people like Brooke. That is who is getting the job.
Yes.
It's the people that are behind the scenes, building the relationship, building the rapport, because they're asking questions. And I have that conversation with my clients all the time is like, hey, don't do the thing where you reach out to them about the posting that you saw and ask them for the job or ask them for an interview or ask if you can send the resume. Ask them about them. People love to talk about themselves. Ask them about how they got involved in the industry. How did you get involved in this role? Or tell them, like, this is the type of career that is my dream job. I would love to know more about it. That's the end. It's not outright asking for the job, which is what you did. This is like proof in the pudding right here.
Yeah.
And that's how you got every career. And it does go back to a conversation that you and I have quite frequently is this importance of building a network. Because both you and I have clients that are coming to us for resume help, LinkedIn help. And while that is all great, it's not going to be the thing that gets you the job. It's your network. It's your ability to be able to strategically reach out to people and keep in touch with people until something opens and you are the person that has become top of mind.
Yes. Yes. So, the job that I was just referring to with the last the third time that I was offered a job with this company, with that initial informational interview, I knew I was going to be getting laid off.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. I was seeing what was happening around me, and my supervisor then was the VP, and we just had a fantastic relationship. And but I knew it was coming, so I was looking on LinkedIn at some positions that might be open, and realized that there was a role that was open, and a guy that I went to high school with.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, was familiar with this company. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, here's what's going on in my life. I'm, interested in speaking with this person. And so I talked with him about that role, and eventually my VP had to lay me off, bless her heart, through tears.
That's the worst.
I know. I felt terrible for her.
Like, I know what you're going through right now.
I was the one losing my job, and I felt worse for her.
Been there.
Yeah. So he helped me to get a job, and then or get an interview with these people that he knew, and then eventually one other job with him that I did not ask for. He knew that I had left the first job that he had given me, or that he had helped me to get. And he was talking with some people behind the scenes, knew that I had started my own business, which isn't the business that I'm running now. I started my first business in January of 2020.
Yeah.
Which was
just the worst possible time.
Not a great time. Yeah. So he knew that I wasn't working a full-time job. He had these clients that he was talking with.
Yeah.
And he said they were looking for somebody yesterday. Yeah. They had an HR director leave, like, with no notice. And he said, I know this woman who isn't technically working a 9 to 5. She started her own business, but you should talk to her. And so that was something that just came out of nowhere. And that was my first six-figure job.
6 figures. Did you hear that?
5 years.
She was worried that she wasn't going to be able to make anything. And I think at the time you had targeted, like, if I could just make $60,000 a year,
I thought
that would be phenomenal.
Yes. I thought that was going to be, if I could do that, I would have made it.
Yeah.
So a 6-figure job wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah. And this is like the best case of, like, what's the best that could happen? Like, don't limit yourself to, like, all right, that's where I'll stop once I hit 60,000. Like, there's a potential that you make even more here.
Yeah.
And I think this example of just how all of your careers came to be is a good reminder for anybody that's going through, finding their job. Specifically, if you're looking for your first job, like, keep in mind that anybody that you come in contact with is a potential employer, or they know someone who's going to be a potential employer. And I say that a lot, specifically to Gen Z, and I know they get a lot of hate, so I'm sorry, but the generation needs to know. You can't be too lax with some of these connections because you don't know if they're going to be a boss later or connect you to a boss later. You have to think of everybody as a reference letter. Yeah. And I think you did. I think you really did treat each interaction and relationship as like, well, I don't want to lose complete contact with them because it might help lead to the next thing. So I think it's a good reminder to do that.
Yeah, and I think in the same vein of networking, authenticity matters.
Yes.
Integrity matters. And so, when you're laid off from that job, like I was, you don't take it personally. She ended up being the person that mentored me through my first director role because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing.
Don't burn the building down because you got laid off.
Yeah. Or the first person who, didn't give me the job is, keep showing up as somebody who has integrity and who isn't taking things personally. And that was huge for me. It's just, maintaining positive attitude through some of what could have been considered failures. They were never failures.
Yeah. Well, and I had personally a really hard time with, if people told me no or not now, it doesn't mean not ever.
Yes.
It just means not right now.
Yep.
And it could be a year. It could be 6 months. So try to take whatever feedback they're able to provide you and why you didn't get that job so that you can turn around and develop those things. And then maybe it's next year, but it doesn't mean that it's not ever. And it's not their fault that you're not qualified yet for the position.
Or there was somebody else that showed up who I knew the first role with Dan, when I ended up getting the exact same role a year later, I knew I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I knew that I did not have enough of a resume to land that job.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that because it was something that got me in the door, and I just stayed.
Well, and it still gave you a reason to keep in contact with them.
Yep, exactly.
And say, are you willing to keep in contact? That's so huge. I want to talk a little bit about this example because you talk a lot about how your biggest job now, while it's a lot of heavy resume help and LinkedIn help, a lot of it comes back to confidence, specifically for women.
Yes.
Specifically for moms.
Yes.
I had an individual I will never forget, and this kind of was the start of why I thought coaching could be something that I wanted to do, because I saw this happen with her and I was like, oh my gosh, how many of her are there? So I had this individual that was a candidate, and it was back when I was in my last corporate job. I was recruiting. She was a top candidate. The company loved her. They were like, she's phenomenal for the position. We have a couple questions around her resume. There's some weird gaps that are going on.
Yep.
And I'm looking at her profile and I see them. I'm like, yeah, there are some weird gaps. And I'm kind of doing the math on them. And it wasn't making total sense. And I see like in the top of her bio that, she did some run coaching at one point. And the company starts getting a little bit iffy about her. They're like, well, what were these breaks? Did she have like a mental breakdown because they seem to have like the same stretch of time? Did she go and check herself in somewhere? Did she have like they were creating the worst case scenario in their head because they couldn't explain it.
Sure.
And I went to her a couple of times. I was like, hey, what's going on with the gaps? And she really didn't have much to say at first. She was like, I don't know. That's just like when the job ended. And I finally dug deep and I was like, I am going to take a massive risk here because she could file a complaint immediately against me. I don't know, but I have a feeling I know what's going on. And she had worked like big time corporate jobs. She was like a leader in these corporate jobs. And I was like, all right, I'm going to be woman to woman here. I think you're a mom. And I was like, but there's nowhere here that suggests that. And I was like, might it be that these gaps were that you took off to have a baby? And she broke into tears and said yes. Yeah. And I said, okay, that's a superpower. So why is that not on your resume?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I didn't want to look unprofessional that I took time off to have a baby. And, I didn't want them to think that I would ask for time off to go to field trips or take time off for sick kids. And I was always taught, don't even wear an engagement ring because then they're going to think that you're going to take off time to get married. And it goes like way back before kids. And I was so incredibly sad for her because this massive part of her life of being a mom, like, wow, what an honor to be a mom. It's probably the best job in the world. And she feels like she can't list it on her resume because she's not going to be taken seriously. Yeah. And she was losing out on job opportunities because she wasn't able to articulate what she did with that time. Yes. So how important is the confidence piece that you're working with women about? And where do you think that comes from, that they think that they don't deserve something?
It is the most important piece. And it is something that women, I think, particularly struggle with. And
Yeah.
The reason why I coach women is because that is such a huge part of getting from your 0 to 6 figures is believing that you can do it. And so what was the question? I totally lost the
I think I just
question.
asked like why it's, and this is helpful to know too. So at the end of this example with this client or with this candidate, I had asked her, I was like, so what would happen if you told them that you had kids
Mm-hmm.
and they did have a problem with it? Would you
Mm-hmm.
want to work there anyway?
Right.
You wouldn't.
Yes.
So like it's important to be authentic. You go back to
Yes.
authenticity and how important that is. That's the biggest piece of advice. And she didn't think she was allowed to do it. She was like, "Oh, you think that I should tell them that I was a mom?" And I was like, "Absolutely, because you're
Yes.
not going to stop being a mom. You're going to always be a mom. There's going to be a field trip. There's going to be a sick day."
Yeah.
So if you pretended that that wasn't a part of your identity and you get this job and then you do have to take the time,
Yes.
you're not going to love being there.
Yeah.
So what's the risk in being honest? And I feel like women feel like they have to sacrifice big pieces of themselves or hide certain pieces of themselves, and it comes back to that confidence. So
Yes.
why is that?
So there is, and I always tell women this, and my very first 6-figure job that I shared with you, I said in that interview, I am a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I do not work nights and weekends.
Yep.
I totally understand that this is an executive role, and if you need somebody who's going to be able to work 10-hour days, I get it. I want you to have what it is you need. I also feel like it's important for me to be transparent with you up front about where I will and won't be able to help. And I honestly believe that helped me to get the job.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I think the moment that I decided that I was going to show up and tell them exactly what my career aspirations were, exactly what my limitations were going to be, it was so much better. And I ended up happier because I was honest about, I'm not going to be online after I check out. I'm going to be mom.
Yeah. And I also told them, I'm a hard worker. I'm going to get the job done. And, they maintained, I was with them for 6 years, and they maintained my boundaries.
Yep.
And when they called me at night, I always picked up the phone because I knew they really needed something because they never did. I think I was probably called 20 times over the course of 6 years after 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So it's important that we're transparent.
Yep.
Because once you get into a job, if that job isn't working for your life, you're going to fail.
Yes.
And not that failing is not a teach or a learning opportunity. It is. But you want to have your face out there as somebody who moves in the world with integrity, honesty, transparency, somebody that people can trust, and they know that they can rely on you. That's what they're looking for. That never goes out of style.
And the same, I think, goes for being honest about what you know and what you don't know.
Yep.
When I'm in the hiring seat, I always appreciated the candidate who was like, actually, I don't have an example of that, or actually, I don't know that, but I'm really driven, and I will figure it out. I will find a way, or I will find someone who can sit and explain it to me. And that person, I always was more willing to put my neck out for than somebody who I could tell was totally fudging it and was making up that they had the skill. I'm like, why would you lie about it?
Yeah.
And you're going to be uncomfortable if you get there and you don't know the skill and you told them that you did. So that's something that I say too. I'm like, be honest about what you don't know. It's often not the make or break. They're just looking for a baseline of what they might need to train you around, or what might, need to be a focus earlier rather than later. So it comes back to that authenticity, integrity. That is really something that people are hiring around versus the skill itself.
And they always will.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. So I had a similar experience, or I'm sure you've heard this before. There are so many different trains of thought from people who are trying to help somebody with a resume. And I've had several people say, well, I know I could learn this, so should I put it on my resume? No,
Nope.
You should not, because when you get asked that question and you can't answer it,
you're like a ding dong.
don't ever do that. Can I help you with how to word your resume in a way that they could tell you could learn it? Yes.
Right. Yes.
Do you put on there that you know it?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I want to talk about this briefly because you and I talk about this too. We just had this conversation before we started. But for those people who are like, I just got to have the perfect resume. I just got to have the perfect LinkedIn.
No.
We make our money off of doing this. So I want to be honest about that. Brooke and I both work in similar lines of work. I'm more on the coaching side. Brooke is more on the like resume and LinkedIn and confidence building. So there's similar, but we both have responsibility and people pay us to revamp resumes and LinkedIn. And while we love to get paid for this, confirm or deny that this is going to be the thing that gets them the job.
100% not. Like, resumes are not going to get you a job.
Yes.
It's important to have a good resume,
Yep.
something that, some of this goes back to your confidence. Do you have one that you feel good about?
Yeah.
When you give it to somebody, do you feel like they're going to like
Yeah.
the way this looks? You have some confidence. Does it matter? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it going to land you your job? No.
No.
Neither is your LinkedIn profile. Are there ways to optimize it so that you look neat and tidy and all pulled together and like somebody that they might trust just on first glance? Yes.
Mhm.
But it's not going to land you
Yeah.
a job.
And I've seen people drop thousands of dollars to
Yeah.
have their resumes revamped. And it's so far away from who they actually are that when they go in, they don't even know what's on the resume. So it's stop focusing on the wrong thing. You need to
Yes.
focus on your network. Who do you know in your network that you can be connected to? Relationships, building rapport. But the resume and LinkedIn are not going to make or break your career.
No.
As Brooke is prime example of.
No.
So speaking of what it is that Brooke does, I want to give her an opportunity to talk about what it is that you do now. You have started your own business. It's called Her Perfect Career. Talk to us a little bit about what you do and who's the ideal client.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would go as far to say that we do almost the same thing.
Almost identical. It's true.
So I do career coaching, but I focus on women. I love your brand. It's so cool.
Thank you.
I've showed it to several friends. I
Thank
think it's
you.
awesome. So our branding is different. I focus pretty much on women. Like you said, confidence is something that I think is so important for women who are getting back into the workforce,
Yeah.
changing careers. But so I do one-on-one coaching. I'm actually going to be starting group coaching at the end of the summer,
fun.
trying to let moms get through
Yeah.
summer and kids being home and, vacations for those, women who are not necessarily moms, but
Yeah.
need the summer. So I'm going to be starting some group coaching
Good.
in August. But yes, I do resumes, LinkedIn profiles. I do one-on-one that can look like interview prep. It can look like all different kinds of things. And, I start with a 30-minute discovery call and
Yep.
I see where people are and what it is they need. And, I let them know these are the services that I
Yeah.
think I could benefit you. And I wouldn't spend your money doing this.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that I love doing that's also part of the coaching, but is an 8-week course really, is helping women to figure out what it is they want to do.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea what kind of profession I would be good at. I had transferable skills in that I could achieve the goals that I wanted to achieve. So I help women to do that as well.
When I think, a lot of women, a lot of people in general, because I feel like a lot of my clients start here, but I think a very normal feeling before you're ready to invest in a coach is that you wake up and I don't want to be here. I know that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this.
Yeah.
That's kind of when I think it's really time to consider a coach because they're able to help you kind of discover what it is. Because it's really hard when you're in that middle of freaking out, not knowing what the next step looks like or whether it's going to be terrible. All you can think about is, I don't want this. I really don't want this.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do need that extra help in determining, okay, but what do we want? And Brooke and I actually recently have really started talking more about, how do we help each other? Because as anyone knows, if you're picking a therapist or even if you're picking a life partner,
Yes.
some people are a better fit than others.
Definitely.
So, Brooke and I talk a lot about, okay, this client might not be the best fit for me, but they're the best fit for you.
Yep.
So if anyone, has questions around how Brooke and I differentiate ourselves, we are constantly in communication about, and we have one right now that we're like, ooh, who should this go to?
I have a client I'm sending to you today.
Yeah. So, if anybody listening comes to me and we discover that Brooke might be a better fit or vice versa, that happens a lot in the coaching world, because you do need to make sure that you click with the person that's helping you discover how you're going to get closest to you.
And that, to me, falls in line with integrity, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is what is going to best benefit the person that we are trying to serve. And there's somebody that I'm working with who is kind of starting to go into, I've helped with a resume, I've helped some different things, but she wants to go more into a business. And I've just said to her, this is kind of bleeding over into business coach territory, and I want to make sure that I honor the time that we have together for the expertise that I feel like I can best serve you with. So I think it's carrying the integrity that we have when we're job searching and, making those shifts into our own business. Where would it be serving the person best for me to tell them, oh, you need this gigantic package, when really they just need me to look over a resume, refresh it a little bit. And so, I think the same is true with, having somebody that, you have this connection and this branding around athletes, because you are such a fantastic athlete. And I want people who are athletes to be able to get that gift that you bring to this.
Yeah, Brooke's like, when you look at Brooke's branding, she's like a warm hug, sitting by the fireplace with her and have like a coffee. I'm like the kick in the ass, like Alex Toussaint coach. So,
you're the badass.
Like, what are you doing? Why are you sitting still? Get moving. Brooke's like, it's okay. But we equalize each other out, and I think it's so important. The same way that we built our networks for ourselves and get our own jobs, I think it's really important as you're building in the entrepreneur world a referral system, so that if you can't provide that service, or if you're not the right person, you have strong referrals like Brooke and I have in each other. So it goes back to, like you said, authenticity, integrity, and knowing what we don't know. We're honest about what we don't know, and we're honest about where it's one lane versus the next lane. So I love that about, who knew, building this book together. When People Rise. Shameless plug. Brooke, is there any other advice that you have for somebody? And also, how can they get in touch with you if they are considering working with you as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the advice that I would give to women is reach out. Reach out to other women, reach out to me, reach out to people that you feel like can help you on your journey. And for me, getting started can be the hardest part, and having a coach, a friend, somebody in your corner who is letting you know that you can do it, and giving you that encouragement, the warm hug, and I love working with women. And
and your quote back here behind me says, no one gets to 6 figures alone. And I think really no one gets through life alone.
No. Yeah. So to reach out to me, my website is easy to remember. It's herperfectcareer.com. There's a contact page on there that people can just reach out, say what it is they want to connect with me about. On that contact page, there's also a place that they can check off if you want to be on my mailing list. So that's a way that people can get some free advice. Sometimes people aren't ready to invest a lot of money because they're not sure what their return is going to be. So if you're kind of in that trying to figure it out phase, you can get a little bit of free advice that way. I'm also on Instagram, her_perfect_career. And you can check me out there. So several different ways you can get in touch with me. Yeah.
And for somebody who's questioning whether or not they're ready, how will they know it's time to work with a coach?
I think when you're not sure where to start, where to go, you're not sure what employers are looking for. I think that's one of the things that you and I bring to our businesses is having that HR background of being the employer and knowing what they're looking for and seeing thousands of resumes. What is it that we're doing? I mean, going back to the resume conversation, people are going to look at your resume for 10 seconds before they decide. Lucky. Yeah, before they decide if they want to read the rest.
So you might not even be a human reading.
Yeah. So, I think it's if you need guidance and you're just not quite sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Brooke, it's been a pleasure. Anybody who's looking to work with Brooke, she's just a phenomenal human, phenomenal friend, and really good at what she does. So we are so lucky to have you as a guest in the Grit Files, and we're going to see each other a lot because we're doing a lot of networking events, I feel like, for the book. But we can't wait to have you back. Yeah. This is the Grit Files. I'm your host, Laura Reynolds, signing off.